So crazy, the most you're gonna put down on a house is what? 5%. All right, what's up guys? So I have been selling real estate for almost 5 years now. Let's see, actually, yeah, it'll be 5 years this year, 2020. So in my almost 5 years of selling real estate, helping people buy houses, helping people sell, helping people invest in real estate, I have heard and seen so many preconceived notions, so much BS online, so much BS in general of what it takes to buy a house. And like you probably, I personally had all these beliefs in my head that, oh, I need 20% down. I got to save thousands upon thousands of dollars before I can ever buy a house. Or got nervous about it or scared of it. Or, it was so daunting, it was so confusing that I had no clue what to do. And I was even that way getting into the real estate business. Part of what led me to get into it was the fact that it was so confusing to me, I wanted to understand it. So in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to buy a house in 2020. As far as I can. Some of it's a little bit local, but as far as generalizations go, I'm going to give you every step you need to take to buy a house. Okay, so now everything I'm going to share with you guys, I'm going to kind of break it down into 3 separate categories. The first is going to be down payments, how all those programs work, the different loan programs out of that. The second thing is going to be fixed costs, okay? And the third thing is going to be just things to watch out for when you're buying a house for the first time, all right? And kind of some misconceptions in there as well. So everything I'm sharing with you guys is not, me talking from my mighty throne. Sorry, guys, just leaving there. Talking from my mighty throne, saying, "Oh my gosh, I know everything. I know exactly what to do. I'm the man." It's just things that I've learned over the last 5 years of selling houses, and things that I've tend to watch out for and that kind of thing. Things that I find to be true and to be, a lie or untrue. So that's what I'm going to share. All right, now the first thing is down payments. Down payments, they're going to range a lot, and I know you've seen some cheesy stuff about zero down programs, and I know me personally, I'm kind of a skeptic when it comes to this stuff for sure. Like I hear zero down, I'm like, come on, that's no way, that's real. That's not what they're doing. This is America, we're not doing zero down, right? So how is this possible? Now it necessarily could be true that it's a zero down program, but that is not always the case. Sometimes they just say that to get you in the door, and then it turns out you don't qualify it, yada, yada, yada. So there's 2 different kinds of zero down programs that are 100% zero down, and they're very legitimate. The first one is USDA loan, aka Rural Development Loan. And I think, I know these are available in most states. I don't know if they're available in every state. But a Rural Development Loan is going to be a true zero down loan. The downfall to this is typically it's going to be outside of a city limit area. So in my area, in the Black Hills, the only area that doesn't qualify for rural development loans is the Rapid City itself. Everything else outside of it, there's a bunch of little towns outside of it that would qualify for it, within 5-10 minutes of our town, but Rapid City itself would not. So most likely wherever you're at, it's going to be the same way. Now, with this program, there are some downfalls, and one of those being the house, like I said, has to be outside of a city limit typically. And the other thing is there's a limit on who can buy the house. So you have to make a certain amount of money. It changes constantly. The last I checked and talked to somebody about this, I believe it was a household couldn't make more than $78,000 in a year to buy a rural development loan. So I just encourage that people that make less money will be able to get these houses for zero down. Now the next zero down program that's out there that's 100% legitimate is the VA. You can't beat the VA. The VA is awesome. If you've ever been in the military or active duty, I would highly recommend you use your VA. The VA is 100% zero down. You also don't have to have private mortgage insurance, which I'll touch on in a little bit here. So another great thing about it. Now with the VA loan, the only downfall to it really is you have to be a veteran to do it. So you can't do it if you're not a veteran. Okay, the common misconception on the VA loan is that you can only use it once. And that is not true from what I've seen and what I've heard and what I've helped people do. What it means is you can only have your VA loan on one house at a time. So if you use your VA loan once, I've heard a lot of people say, I'm going to save my VA loan, I'm going to save it. I don't know what you're saving it for exactly, because you can buy your primary house with a VA loan, sell that house, and buy another house with your VA loan. but you can only have one VA loan at a time. That's how I understand it anyways, and that's what I've seen people do. So don't be scared to use your VA loan because you can use it again. It's not a one-time deal. Okay, now we're going to get into kind of the more common loan programs that everybody can use with some little restrictions here and there. And the most common one is going to be the FHA loan. The FHA loan. Has you ever heard the term, first-time homebuyer loan? Hey, I want to do a first-time homebuyer loan. Let's do the first-time homebuyer program. Well, that loan, the first-time homebuyer loan, does not exist. That's not a real thing. That's just like a buzzword that people say. What they actually mean when they say that is FHA, which stands for Federal Housing Administration. So it's a government-backed loan that helps first-time homebuyers get into houses. However, you don't have to be a first-time homebuyer to use the FHA loan. I believe, I know I'm not 100% confident on this, but I believe it's after 5 years. If you haven't owned a house in 5 years, you can use the FHA loan again. So the FHA is going to require 3.5% down. The good part about the FHA loan is that it typically, the requirements to qualify are a lot more flexible. So minimum credit score you need for a FHA loan is going to run you right at 580. So you need a 580 minimum credit score to get an FHA loan. So that's very achievable. The average credit score in America is 720 right now as of January 2020. So that's very achievable. And if your credit's lower, work with a lender. I mean, you could even call me and I could get you in contact with somebody. I'm happy to do that, to work on your credit. I've worked with hundreds of people getting their credit up. So it's actually not as hard as you think as long as you stick to the plan. So 580 is what you need on a credit score. Now let's get into the nuts and bolts of this. With FHA, how much money do you need to buy a house? So I'm taking numbers based off a $250,000 purchase price, which is the average purchase price in America right now. So you're looking at $250,000, right? Now, from that $250,000, here's what you're going to need. You're going to need the down payment of 3.5%. That's $8,750, okay? So you need the $8,750 right there. After that, you're going to need the fixed cost, which we'll talk about in just a minute. But in total, down payment for a $250,000 house on an FHA loan, $8,750. Now, a lot of you are thinking, Christian, what about the 20% rule? My Uncle Tom always told me, I need 20% down, I need 20% down. Well, here's why that's not necessarily true. They changed it a while back, the government did, with these programs to help people that didn't have that 20% down saved to get into their first house and build equity, okay? Look, you're not going to be able to save that, most likely, unless you have a really good paying job and you don't spend any money. You're not going to be able to save $40,000 or $50,000 to get into your first house. Just not that realistic for the average person, right? So these governments put these programs in place so people like me and you can get into these houses for much lower down. Now, here is the beauty, guys, and here's the things that drive me nuts recently. I'm getting to the point where I'm like mad when I hear this stuff, and that is, Christian, awesome. I'm so happy that the housing market is on the rise and great right now. I'm gonna wait a couple years. I'm gonna wait 2-3 years to buy something. Just so I'm in a little better position, stuff like that. Stop thinking that way. Please stop thinking that way. Here is why. If you wait 2 or 3 years, the potential money that you could leave on the table for yourself and your family is insane. Currently, if you're in a market that's similar to what I'm doing, to what my market is doing, if you were to wait 3 years to buy a house and the market continues at the pace it's been continuing at, you will lay on a $250,000 house anywhere from $50,000 to $80,000 in equity gone. For what? For what? I just don't understand that mentality of waiting on it. Why wait? Why wait? I just don't get it. With appreciation of 9%, over the next 3 years, you're just throwing away so much money. Anyways, done with that range. Okay, now on one other thing I want to touch on the FHA loans is every single loan program in South Dakota, and as far as I know, a lot of other states, the majority of other states, can be paired with some kind of down payment assistance program. Like in South Dakota for the FHA, for example, you're going to have 3.5% down. You can pair that with what's called South Dakota housing here. And there's a lot of other stuff like it. There's like a Home 5 in another state. There is Home 5, I believe, is in a lot of states. But there's a lot of things like that that can get your down payment taken care of for you, or the majority of it, right? And the way that works is they call it a silent second loan. So what they'll do is they'll give you the money for the down payment, so you basically get into the house for zero, but your fixed costs, and I'll explain what those are in just a second. Basically what it's going to be is they're going to have a loan for you. Let's say it's $8,750 for your FHA, right? They're going to give you that $8,750. They typically don't give you all of it. So let's say they give you $8,500. So they give you $8,500. That's going to be a second loan on your house, and there's no interest on it typically. It's like a grant. However, when you sell the house, you have to pay that off. So you have to subtract that from whatever you're going to make on the house. Next thing here. So 3.5% down, this is FHA, right? We established that. Now, the next most common loan is going to be the conventional loan. Conventional loan kind of goes one of two ways. It typically has a little bit more strenuous qualifications for it. You have to have a 640 credit score or higher to qualify for a conventional. So a little bit higher credit score. Still very achievable if you work for it. Conventional loans are typically going to be anywhere from 3 to 5% down, depending on what you qualify for. There's two programs that I'm aware of called a Freddie Mac Home Ready and a Fannie Mae Home Possible or something like that. I think I'm really close. It might be reversed, but it's one of those. Those are 3% down. They have higher income ratios that they allow, lower income ratios that they allow. They need a higher credit score, things like that. But if you qualify for those, you can get 3% down. Now, the typical conventional loan that you're going to have, conventional loan, is going to be a 5% down. So crazy, the most you're going to put down on a house is what? 5%. I just put 10 fingers on it, but 5%. So 5% down is the most I've ever seen anybody put down on a house, especially for first-time home buyers. Typically, it's either 3.5% or 0 that they put down. So with the 5% down, you get a $250,000 house. You're looking at $12,500. Again, on the conventional loans, almost every state that I'm aware of has some kind of down payment assistance program that can pair with it. Locally here, it's called NeighborWorks. What NeighborWorks will do is they will loan you money. They have their own qualifications as well, but they'll loan you money for your down payment. I believe it's up to $12,000. So in this case, you do $500 over. The way theirs works is a little different. It's a loan with very low interest, like 1 or 2%. And you pay that back per month to them. It's usually like a check for, $50 or $100, something like that. So that gets you out of having to pay it right away. So there's ways around every single scenario of getting your down payment. If down payment is what's scaring you, I'd highly recommend you go talk to a lender and get it figured out for yourself and your family so you guys don't throw away that money. Now, I mentioned it previously on the VA loan, PMI. It stands for Private Mortgage Insurance. So what that means is, and a lot of people don't ever talk about this, it's basically insurance that the bank makes you buy to protect their investment, right? So it's for if you foreclose on the property, the banks make sure they get their money back, so it's a solid investment for them. Now, at first glance, you may think, well, that's BS. That sucks. I don't need that. I have homeowners insurance that protects me. Why am I protecting the bank? Well, basically what that is, they put that in place to replace the 20% down rule that Uncle Tom or whoever always told you about. So a while back, they initiated the private mortgage insurance to allow lower down payments so the banks would take risk on the loans. So with the PMI, the highest one I've seen is $100 a month. So what happens with private mortgage insurance is 80% loan to value ratio, meaning you have 20% equity in your house, it gets dropped off. So typically, in a typical market, that may take you 5 years, 6 years. But in a market like in South Dakota right now, it would only take you most likely a couple years, depending on where you're at, how much appreciation and stuff like that. But after a couple years of paying that, you're going to be above that ratio and you can take that off. So it's a necessary evil for sure. Now, I've covered the basics on loans. If you have further questions on that, let me know. It seems like a good time to say as well. If you like this content, if you find this video helpful for you at all, smash that subscribe button, hit the notification bell and like this video. I'd really, 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 really appreciate that. All right. Now, talked on the loans. If you have more questions, like I said, DM me, message me here. I'll respond to every message or comment on the video, and I can help you out as much as I can. If not, I'll point you in the right direction. Second step here is going to be fixed costs. So there's a couple things in the fixed costs that I think everybody needs to know about that they may not know. Number one is inspections. So once you get a house under contract, you're going to do a personal inspection on the house. Typically, real estate agents will give you their recommendation on an inspector. However, you don't have to use our recommendations. You can use whoever you like. However, I would recommend you at least listen to your agent because they typically have worked with a lot of them and they know who's reliable and who's not. Now, inspections will run you anywhere from $300, this is what I've seen anyways, $300 to $700, depending on what items you want to be addressed. So, $300 usually gets you the basics, and that will be like, foundation, roof, plumbing, electrical, all the main stuff. So in the future what's going on with the house, make sure there's no electrical, make sure there's no issues on anything like that, right? Now, $700, you know, the only one I've seen for $700, got you everything you could imagine, like a radon test for radon gas, termite inspection, you know, lead-based paint, that kind of stuff. So it goes in more detail. Now, these will, like I said, these will run you anywhere from $300 to $700 depending on what you want done, but they can potentially save you thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars. So I highly recommend doing those. So that'll be your first fixed cost. Let's just call it even $400. All right, second fixed cost is going to be the appraisal. So appraisal, I actually love appraisals. I don't know why, but I think they're awesome. Well, I guess I'll explain to you why. But appraisals are what the banks order automatically. Every lender in America requires them as far as I'm aware. And basically what this does is it protects you and the bank from overpaying for the house. So let's say you're buying it for $250. That's what it offers at. The bank's going to send an appraiser in to tell the bank and you what the house is worth based on their opinion. Let's say that appraisal comes back. This is a little off subject, but I just want you to know it. Let's say that bank comes back and it says it's worth $255,000. So $5,000 over what you're asking. Awesome, right? What a lot of people think is, oh my gosh, now do I have to pay that person $255,000? No. What happens is you get to buy the house for $5,000 less than what it's worth. So awesome for you. Gets you closer to getting that PMI off. Now, the second scenario would be if it came in $5,000 under value. Unfortunately, at this point, the bank will only loan money on what it appraises for. So in this case, $245,000 is all they'll loan money on. So what you're going to have to do, and if you have a great real estate agent, then you'll be able to get the seller to negotiate down on that. All right, those appraisals typically run anywhere from $500 to $700, depending on what it was. The average I've seen is about $600, so we'll call appraisals $600. All right, the next thing is going to be earnest money, and really I probably should have put this at the very front, but that's okay, we'll roll with it. So earnest money is what's considered a good faith deposit that you put down on a house. You're going to put it down in the beginning, right as you get an accepted offer, as good faith to the seller that you're a true buyer, you're going intention to buy this house. And typically, from what I've talked to other agents around the U.S., the average is 0.5% to 1% of the purchase price. So $250,000, I'd say you're pretty safe with $1,500 to $2,000 that you're gonna have to put down initially. You might be able to skate away with it a little less than that. Some, you know, I've seen $500 or $1,000 done too. So that'll have to come out of a personal checking account, and that'll be held in a third-party trust account for the end, and it'll go toward your closing costs or down payment at the end. Now, I just touched on that, but the final thing in your fixed cost is going to be your closing costs. With closing costs, they're going to run you anywhere from $3,000 up to 3% of purchase price. And the reason that ranges so much, guys, from what I've seen, is lenders and how much they charge. So $3,000, there's a certain company that I work with a lot that only charges $3,000 no matter how big the loan is, how much it is. Other banks will charge, you know, a fee percentage, so it gets higher and higher and higher. I would just recommend you shop around a little bit and get that fee a little lower. If it's much more than $4,500, I'd be a little eerie of that personally. Now, here's the best thing about closing costs. Now you're thinking like, oh, got my down payment, I got this closing cost now, I got all this stuff. If you have a really good real estate agent, which if you're in this area, hopefully it's me. Okay, done with that. All right, so, but really, if you have a really good real estate agent that can negotiate very well for you and knows what they're doing, you should never have to pay closing costs. Here's why. I can negotiate that into the majority of the deals and still make it very enticing for the seller. So I can entice the seller to pay your closing costs for you 98% of the time, let's say. And if you have a really good real estate agent, they can do that as well. Let's just say you have a great real estate agent, or if you're here, it's me. Okay, I'm done doing that. I'm done. Closing costs, let's call that zero. Boom, you get that out. All right, so depending on the lender, that appraisal might be in the closing costs, it might not. So let's just say it's not. So we got our inspection fee, $400. We got our appraisal fee of $600. And we got our earnest money of, let's just call it $1,000 just to be even. So we got $2,000 there with a potential of $1,600 of that being non-existent because your $1,000 in earnest money is going to go towards your down payment. So you're going to save $1,000 there. Boom. All right, now just a couple really quick things I would recommend you stay away from as a first-time home buyer or watch out for, okay? Just from what I've seen, I work with a ton of first-time home buyers. So just what I would recommend stay away from. The first one is too much of a fixer-upper. Cosmetic stuff, totally fine. Do you need paint? You maybe need some new floor in some rooms. Do you want to paint the cabinets? Maybe change the countertops, right? That kind of stuff is fine. However, if you're going for a full remodel for your very first house, I've just found it to be a much more hassle than it's worth for most people. You know, you get into the house, maybe you want to keep it for a couple years. Maybe you keep it for 5 years. What that house is going to do for you, if it just has cosmetic stuff, it's going to be much more worth your time, much more worth your money. So get something that maybe needs a little cosmetic work that you can make your own and make it feel like home for yourself. And that way it'll be worth more in the future. All right, the next thing I see a lot of people do is stretch their budget way too high. Don't be scared, guys, for your first house to be a first house. You don't need to be a baller right away. You don't need to be, in the best neighborhood, the best area, for your first house. Look at this house as an investment that's going to help you and your family get to your goal house. So if you buy your house, I personally bought a house in a little worse side of town in our area. I paid $157,000 for it. Pretty cheap for here. It's a 2-bed, 1-bath, pretty small. Got a 2-car garage though, which is awesome. So with that house, my payment per month is only $900, guys. So if I can keep my payment around $900, it gives me a lot more opportunity to do things with my family. Could I afford more than that? Yes. But I recommend stay as low as you can, but still be in a nicer house. And my house needed cosmetic work, and we got that done. Now, what this will do if you buy it a little bit smaller house, a little bit cheaper house, and not boost your ego too much, right? You don't have to be awesome right away, is it'll give you some money for your next house. So let's say you keep it for 3 years, which is kind of my plan with my house, right? You keep it for 3 years. After the 3 years is up, let's just say you have $50,000 in equity. Well, you got a little bit of cost you're gonna have to spend when you sell it. So let's just say you got 40 grand there, right? You got 40 grand now to put down in your next house. And you know that when you go buy it, you're only gonna need 5% down unless everything changes. So if everything changes, maybe that'll happen, but 5% down, you have 40 grand, you're gonna be able to buy whatever house you pretty much want. Then you can go to the 3-bed, 2-bath, awesome house, white picket fence type stuff, and buy more of a dream house. And then that house you can sell in 5 years and buy your legit dream house, right? Your mansion or whatever. So that's kind of the thing, just a couple quick things I wanted to tell you to watch out for whenever you're buying your first house. Now, guys, if you got any questions, you need anything, let me know. I have all my Instagram, all that stuff. I respond to every message on there. You can drop a comment. You can call me. My number's in here. And please, please, please do me a favor. If you're watching this, you found it helpful and valuable, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, and hit a like for me. I'd really appreciate that. And let me know if there's anything else I can answer for you. Any videos you want me to help answer, things like that. So thanks so much for watching, guys. We'll see you later.